What is going on, YouTube? So, just earlier did some talk about conference realignment, more around the college sports landscape, but wanted to cover one other topic today that I've actually been meaning to get to here for the past few days, about a week, since it was such a busy offseason for the Chicago Bulls. I do cover the Chicago Bulls for a website called Pippen Ain't Easy. And I've covered them for about 3 years now, and it does appear that times for the Bulls are picking up. They had a busy offseason, and honestly, they were one of the busiest teams this offseason. So, I like some of the moves they made. In the near term, I think they upgraded their roster more so than really any other NBA team in terms of this jump you'll probably see in the standings next season. Just to recap some of the moves that they've made off the top, talk about their projected starting five, and then kind of wrap that up with the whole point of the video of, I do feel like the Bulls are a team that can finish in the top four or the top five in the East now. Do I think that they're automatically, yes, confirmed the fourth or fifth best team in the East? I don't know. But they're definitely in the thick of this group of teams outside of the top three that I think has a real shot to get home court advantage in the first round of the playoffs in the East. Anyway, let's get right into it. So first major move that the Bulls made in the negotiation window for free agency around 2 weeks ago was a sign and trade deal with the Pelicans for Lonzo Ball. That one's a well-noted move now. The Bulls made it right away. There's a tampering investigation with it now. It's a whole lot, but the Bulls' main priority this offseason was finding that point guard of the future. It was pretty clear that they didn't trust Kobe White. They didn't trust Tomas Satoransky, anyone of the sort to fill that role. They did draft Ayo Dosunmu from Illinois, but obviously he's not going to come in right away and be your starting point guard. I think he'll be solid, but second or third unit guard right away. Lonzo Ball signed to a 4-year, I believe, $85 million contract if you include bonuses. Just the straight up total amount of the value came out to, I think, around like 82 or 83. It was slightly under 85, which was first reported. But it's clear he's going to be the starting point guard next season. You get a nice little backcourt duo in the starting unit between him and Zach LaVine. You upgrade the defense, you upgrade the playmaking. Honestly, he's a better shooter from deep at this point than Kobe White. I think Kobe White's still a little bit quicker off the dribble, not as good of a facilitator, but also a little bit better of a shot creator. That one's a little bit tougher, but I still think you've got room for a volume scoring guard in Kobe off the bench. Anyway, the second signing, not one of the two most notable, but it definitely helps the Bulls on defense, is Alex Caruso from the Lakers. The Bulls got him. They invested a good amount in him, 4 years, around $37 million, I believe, in total. An AAV just shy of $10 million for a guy that was an undrafted free agent, 4 years ago? And, was never really a consistent starter for the Lakers. I might eat my words on that one, but I thought he was a really solid addition. The Bulls really showed last year that they needed help on the bench for three-point shooting, defense, the whole 9 yards. You had Garrett Temple last year. He's a solid defender, but that was mostly it until you got Troy Brown and Javonte Green, and those guys didn't play a huge role in the rotation down the stretch. Well, those two guys are still on the roster. Javonte Green was re-upped for a 2-year deal, which I thought was a good move for the Bulls, but that was another move worth noting. But Alex Caruso, nice impact for shooting from deep off the bench. It's a guy that can come in and be a lockdown guard. He's one of the better, I think, reserve defending guards in the NBA, and the Bulls needed that. They weren't the worst defensive team in the NBA last season by any means, but perimeter defense was definitely one of the weak spots. Help defense too. So Alex Caruso definitely is viable for a switchable defender, good one-on-one if you're having trouble with Zach LaVine, or maybe Lonzo's having an off night. You want to get someone next to Kobe White that's a little bit more adept defensively. Caruso's a very nice fit in that regard, so I think he helps. Next major signing was DeMar DeRozan. And Lonzo and DeMar were definitely the two big additions. So I do want to talk about a little bit the difference in what the Bulls gave up for Lonzo, who was a restricted free agent, and a sign and trade looked very likely. And someone like DeRozan, who was an unrestricted free agent, did look to have a decent bit of suitors, but I think the Bulls gave up a lot. They gave up a lot to get DeRozan. I don't think it's clear they gave up a lot. Whether that move pays off and, if it was worth it will come down to how the Bulls do in the next 2 years. But they gave up, it was a future first. So now they have one or two first round draft picks and through, I think it's 2026. They gave up 2 firsts to get Nikola Vucevic at the deadline. They gave up another second round draft pick to get Lonzo, which wasn't that bad, but they gave up a first and then 2 seconds to get DeRozan, along with Al-Farouq Amino, which was actually more of a salary dump, but then also Thaddeus Young, who definitely wasn't a salary dump. I mean, they had to match salaries to Bulls were rather cap strapped, so they had to do something there. But Thaddeus Young's a big loss. He was one of the most efficient players for the Bulls last season, and one of the most improved players in the NBA. He had one of the best seasons of his career. He was a nice fit with Billy Donovan, and he's paid around $13 million for the final year of his contract or of his current contract. And I mean, I think he's going to help the Spurs. He could really help any borderline or actual playoff contender. That was a lot to give up. If the Bulls make the playoffs this season, they make it at least a decent postseason run. Zach LaVine ends up re-upping next offseason, or you have a little bit of time left before this negotiation window closes, but doesn't look like he's going to get re-upped this offseason or extended this offseason. So if he gets re-upped next offseason, fair price tag for both sides, he improves and, he continues to really become the face of the franchise, which he pretty much already is, then this moves to success. But on the contrary, DeMar DeRozan is going to be a clunky fit. There's so many ways to look at this. It's hard to figure out exactly where DeRozan fits with the team. I think the common school of thought, and the one I keep coming back to, is that you still use LaVine as kind of a tough shot maker, probably your highest usage player. He's a very good shooter and continues to improve in that regard. Was close last season to being 50-40-90. He was about 50-40-85. Or like 52-41-85, somewhere in that ballpark. And that was a big reason why he was a first-time All-Star. But, LaVine is a threat from deep. DeRozan's not. Obviously, LaVine can get to the rim. He still needs to get to the free throw line more often. Someone that's that athletic, that good of a shot creator, first-time All-Star. LaVine doesn't have the free throw attempt rate that you would assume from someone that is high usage of player as him, as much of a scorer and as athletic as he is. Him and Kobe White really struggled in the last few seasons to get to the free throw line. I'm trying to see here. Free throw attempt rate, 26.5 or 265, 26.5%. You have a lot of stars out there that are a free throw attempt rate in the ballpark of 300 to 400. And so I don't know. That probably has to improve from LaVine. Beside the point here, though, DeRozan, not a great defensive player. LaVine, definitely not either. At best, you're really looking at a net neutral presence out of LaVine and DeRozan, but with them out on the floor together, you're placing a lot of pressure along with Vooch. Nikola Vucevic isn't a good defender really either. He's okay. Depends on how you use him. But it's putting a lot of pressure on Patrick Williams and Lonzo Ball. I mean, those two are good defenders, but you're placing a lot of emphasis on their shoulders. Maybe you're going to run like Javonte Green, Alex Caruso, some of your more adept defensive players out there, but Troy Brown for sure. But, Donovan has a tough task ahead trying to figure out how this fit works with DeRozan. Again, DeRozan has really adapted his game nicely since he went to the Spurs. Still four-time All-Star, borderline All-Star level production in the last few years. Played the majority of the minutes at the 4, where he was more of a shooting guard and occasionally a wing before even early in his time with the Spurs, and really all throughout his years with the Raptors. He became a lot better just facilitator of the offense, a lot more creative. He's reduced the amount of three-point shots he's taken over the years, but I think you have something to work with here with a guy like Lonzo, who can be a threat from all over, and definitely be the primary ball handler. LaVine obviously can be a tremendous shot creator, but you've got guys in Lonzo, Vooch, and LaVine, even Patrick Williams, like a 39% 3-point shooter last season. You got 4 guys around you that can space the floor. So I think you're going to, I think you're probably going to play DeRozan at the 4 and use him as more of an inside presence. Now on the positive end of this, and this is, I think, what most Bulls fans are considering. You land DeRozan, yes, it's not a perfect fit. It's not like he comes in right away as a seamless fit. I thought with a team like maybe the Lakers or the Knicks, maybe even the Suns, Suns might have been a clunkier fit, but I think with those teams where you're a little bit more solid defensively and you don't have a high usage 2-guard or wing already in the mix, like LaVine, that granted Devin Booker's high usage, but like I said, that's why I think it's a clunkier fit. But I think with that fit, it is going to be a little clunky, but DeRozan is going to add you wins. There's no doubt about that. If you're just not having a great night from someone like LaVine or from Vooch, if they're just not hitting their shots, not getting going, or it was rare for LaVine and Vooch to even play together down the stretch last season. LaVine was in COVID-19 protocols for a lot of it. Vucevic had, I believe, an upper body injury issue for about 4 or 5 games that he missed. And who knows? I mean, it's a long season. This is another short off season. Who knows what's going to happen? And so adding DeRozan just gives you another option of just really an offensive push all around. I mean, he averaged like 7 assists last season. He could still be like a 20 to maybe like a 22, 7 and 5 sort of player. Not going to be an extreme threat from deep, never has been. But, the rest of what he does on offense, he does really, really well. All in all, DeRozan is usually a guy that's going to give you probably about in the ballpark of 5 to 10 win shares. I'm not saying that he alone is a 5 to 10 win boost for the Bulls. Maybe 5. I wouldn't say it's out of the question that you get 5 extra wins out of adding DeRozan. He's your biggest boost. Just there's no question that if you're trying to make the playoffs, adding DeRozan helps. That's kind of the point I'm trying to get to. So the last notable addition, and then I want to get into the last remaining need after that for the Bulls. And they did bring over Marko Simonovic. He was their 2nd-round draft pick from KK Mega VMAX overseas in Europe in the 2020 NBA draft. They're bringing him over. He's already playing with the Bulls in Summer League. I think he's going to be a good fit. He had a bad Summer League game against the Timberwolves, but I don't think you can put too much. I mean, there's going to be clunky games. He's a 2nd-round pick, very much still developing. You can't put too much weight on his shoulders. But the last major signing that they had in free agency so far was Tony Bradley. I believe the last 2 teams he played for were the Thunder and the Clippers. Tony Bradley's an interesting signing. I mean, the Bulls needed a backup center, and I think he can fill that role. He's probably going to give you anywhere between 12 to 18 minutes per night, maybe 15 to 20 if he improves a little bit. He's a good rim protector, not great. He's not really going to space the floor for you. But if you kind of take a dive into the shooting numbers for him, his shot distance is increasing over the last 2 years. His field goal percentage, I believe, was also at a career high from 6 to 10 feet from the rim last year. So he's starting to be able to face up a little bit more and starting to extend his range. He's also a better free throw shooter than most give him credit for. So I think he's an interesting fit. I'm not saying he's going to break through and be a star, but he could expand his game a little bit, add a little bit of offensive versatility. He's a good defender. He's a big body in the paint. He gives you what you need as far as a backup center, especially if Vooch is struggling on defense. Again, I don't know how much he adds, but it definitely fills a need for the Bulls. It's going to make putting this front court unit together a little bit easier for Billy Donovan because he's finding how to piece together the rest of this front court unit outside of Vooch is going to be tough. They're probably not getting back Lowry. Lowry has openly stated he wants to change the scenery. He could, but I'd say it's about a 20% chance that he comes back. So that's the last thing I was going to say. You've got at the 4, the Bulls have a problem right now. You can play Patrick Williams or DeMar DeRozan at the 4, but those 2 are probably both going to be in the starting unit. Your backup 4 right now is probably either Simonovic. I mean, he's more of a 5, but unless you pull someone from the Summer League squad, it's probably Simonovic. Lowry, if he does come back, that takes care of that. But I don't think that's going to happen. I've been a big fan of the Bulls trying to go out and get Paul Millsap. I believe as long as he wasn't signed this morning, I thought that was a good idea for them. I think you need I don't think he hasn't signed anywhere yet. So I think that Millsap would be a really nice fit for the Bulls, depending on the price tag, because they don't have a whole lot of cap room left. But in terms of being a sixth or seventh man, veteran, proven player, again, I believe four-time All-Star. He's 36 now, so you're not getting the prime years, but he was effective for the Nuggets last season, and you can still get 20, 25 minutes, really good minutes out of him per night. I think that would be a move that the Bulls could do to solidify the bench. Either way, they need to add a power forward. I'm not seeing anyone on the Summer League roster. You only got Dosunmu in the draft, Dosunmu in the draft, and you don't have a backup four right now. You dealt out Thaddeus Young. You traded Wendell. You're going to let go of Lowry, Markkanen. All your previous depth at the four is pretty much gone. All right. So the last point, and to try to wrap this all together here, the Bulls starting unit is going to look like Lonzo at the 1. That's clear. You're looking at Zach LaVine at the 2. It's either going to be DeRozan or Patrick Williams at the 3. Whoever doesn't play at the 3 is going to be playing at the 4 probably, and then obviously Vooch at the 5. Your 6th man, if you get one more big signing this offseason, like a Millsap, I don't think they're going to go out and get Josh Hart at this point after signing Caruso. But if you go out and maybe get a Josh Hart, that could be a guy that's a 6th man. At the moment, though, I think your 6th man, depending on how much help you need defensively, is either going to be Kobe White, Troy Brown, or Alex Caruso. Minutes-wise, right now, it looks like they're going to give a pretty heavy workload to Tony Bradley, but I don't think that he's going to be your 6th man by any means. That's not a good situation. But Kobe White, viable 6th man, especially as a volume scorer, it really just depends on what you need. And Troy Brown, I think, is still a really intriguing fit for the Bulls. We'll see how he comes along, but he's an intriguing player, and I think Kobe White would probably be my prediction right now for 6th man. 7th man, probably Alex Caruso. You've got other names that I wanted to bring up that are just important to note in the rotation. Ayo Dosunmu is going to be an interesting part of the rotation. I don't see a reason why he wouldn't be with the team right away. Ethan Thompson was signed as an undrafted free agent, I believe, on an Exhibit 10 deal. We'll see what his status is heading into training camp. He's looked okay in Summer League so far. Obviously, Simonovic is a name to watch. And I think really the last name to watch for this team now is probably going to be Devon Dotson. He was undrafted free agent with the Bulls last season. They just brought him back on a 2-way deal again. He was in one of the 2-way contract slots last year. And he played well. PER, I believe, above 20. BPM, well in the positive, well above 0. Didn't get that much playing time. I believe somewhere in the ballpark of 50 or 60 total minutes. But, they're showing a lot of faith in Dotson. He's been in the starting unit. He's been a high-usage player in Summer League so far until he injured his ankle the other afternoon. And that lost to the Timberwolves. But he's been playing well. He gets to the rim. He's a decent one-on-one defender. He's a good primary ball handler, smart with the ball. And I thought he was a really, really good signing for the Bulls as an undrafted free agent last year. If you're looking for who's probably the 3rd-unit point guard right now, it could be Dosunmu, but it's probably Dotson. Kobe White's probably 2nd. You're probably playing Caruso in more of a combo guard or a 2-guard role. And then, because you're going to use Kobe as the higher usage player on offense compared to Caruso. Caruso is going to be more of a spot-up shooter. 40% shooter from 3 last season, been over 40% twice out of the 4 years of his career. He's a good shooter. He can distribute the ball, but again, more of a off-ball player on offense. I don't think there's much more room for additions to the point guard position. You've already got 4 guys that are already trying to jostle for position on the 15-man roster. So I think that one's pretty much set. At the 2-guard, 2-guard's going to be a little bit more interesting. Again, I think you're going to put Caruso at the 2. You're going to put probably Javonte Green behind him, but he can be switchable between the 2 and the 3. similar with Troy Brown. But I think Troy Brown is going to get mostly minutes at the 3. The wing is an interesting spot for the Bulls because, again, Troy Brown probably your primary backup right now, and Javonte Green can get minutes there. And again, you got 3 guys that can play at the 3, and you're starting 5 between LaVine, Puel, and DeRozan. But all those guys are going to be in the starting 5, so that kind of takes care of that. But I don't know. I don't know how confident the Bulls are going to be just with Green and Brown as your 2 backup wings. It's a good pairing defensively. I think it's got potential. I think Brown still has some room to improve, but you might want to go out and add a veteran wing just to kind of shore up that spot of the rotation. Talked about the 4. At the moment, I think Simonovic is probably your backup, unless you add someone like Omari Spellman from the Summer League team to the roster. And I don't think that's the worst option, but there's better options out there right now. And then at the 5, you've got more options right now. Simonovic probably will be the 3rd unit center and can be switchable to the 4 because he can space the floor. I think you can play Simonovic and Bradley out on the floor together at the same time, but because Simonovic can space the floor a little bit, and Bradley's more the proven rebounder and rim protector. Granted, I think Simonovic will develop into that, but the front court's got a lot of questions right now. Anyway, wrap this all together. I think that the Bulls are a team that's probably going to be finishing somewhere between 4th and 6th. 4th is the best case scenario. That's saying that LaVine takes another step, becomes not just an all-star, but a contender for an all-star starter. The way he's improved lately, that's definitely not out of the question, but it's going to be hard for him to get as much usage when you're adding. I think Lonzo's not going to take that much usage away, especially compared to when you had Kobe White in the starting unit, but you add DeRozan, you have P. Will taking another step forward. He's looked a lot more aggressive in Summer League. You need that. And you have Vucevic, hopefully for a full season. So it's just not going to be as much. I just don't think you're looking at as many touches, as many shots for LaVine. And he was really efficient last season, just in terms of his rebounding numbers, his assist numbers, around 5-6 assists and rebounds per game last season. He can always improve on defense. That's going to be the major question mark. But a guy that shot around, what was it? Like I said, like 50, 40, 85. I don't know how much better you're going to get than that for LaVine. There's going to be more space, so we'll see. But he already competed in the 3-point contest, I believe, the last 2 seasons. So he's probably mostly hit the cap there. Anyway, LaVine's going to be important. He's still kind of the face of this team. And so him taking a step forward, especially as a 2-way shooting guard, is going to be really important for the Bulls. DeRozan, I think you know what you're getting from him. I think most of the questions surrounding DeRozan are going to be concerning how Donovan uses him. It's tough to say. Billy Donovan has got creative in the past. He's not Eric Spoelstra. He's not Rick Carlisle. He's not Nick Nurse. He's not Steve Kerr. I haven't liked so much what the Warriors have done recently, but he's not one of those ultra creative coaches that we know about. It's going to be, I don't know how capable he will be to make this kind of uneven starting unit work, but we'll see. So I think that they are going to take pretty major step forward. And, you got 3 guys that are going to be legit all-star contenders between LaVine, Vooch, and DeRozan. You got 7 or 8 all-star selections between the 3 of them. It's been a few years since DeRozan was an all-star, but Vooch was an all-star. So was LaVine this year. I think you're probably going to have at least 2 all-star selections from the Bulls, barring any unfortunate injuries. But and who knows, maybe. I don't think Lonzo's going to reach all-star caliber levels this year. I think he can improve a little bit. I just don't know if the touches are going to be there for him and Patrick Williams. The other teams that I think that the Bulls are going to be competing with, because there's really 2 questions here. One is, how do the Bulls stack up compared to what you saw from the top 4 or 5 teams in the East last season? And then what other teams actually took strides or made strides this offseason, at least so far, like the Bulls did. The top 4 in the East last season was a little bit surprising. After the Nets added what they did, it wasn't super surprising they were in the top 2. But you had, I think, largely the same top 3 teams in the East that you're going to see next season. And that's the Nets, the Bucks, and the Sixers. Again, barring any major changes to the Sixers, who knows if Ben Simmons is going to be out on the way out. But at the status quo, I think the Sixers are a good enough team to where they still will remain top 3 in the East, at least during the regular season. Bucks, defending NBA champions, barring, again, any injury issues, I think they're good to finish top 3. Nets, again, same thing as the Bucks, if the Nets can stay healthy. There's a logjam after that. Competing with the Bulls, I think the most notable team you have to talk about here is probably going to be Miami Heat. The Miami Heat added a lot this offseason. And I mean, they had a down season last year, but weird season, injuries. The Heat aren't always the best regular season team. They usually are more adept at turning it on in the playoffs like they did last year. But I mean, some of the moves that the Heat made, it's namely Kyle Lowry, a point guard. They're a team that could finish in the top 4, the top 3. I wouldn't doubt that they could get that 4th spot. In terms of the run that they can make in the playoffs, I really think that they can go far. But again, Heat were not a great regular season team in 2020-21. So, I mean, the chances there for the Bulls to upend them, I think that's realistic. Maybe not likely, but realistic. The Atlanta Hawks, I think, are another notable team. The Hawks obviously had a really, really nice postseason run. They had to see the Eastern Conference Finals. You really saw a breakout from Trae Young. I mean, you've got a good young core there, a good supporting cast. I think John Collins, while he's gotten a lot more exposure, is still one of the more undervalued big men in the NBA. He does a lot of everything, and he does a lot of everything well. He's a good shooter from deep. He's a really good rebounder, really athletic. He can score on his own. I mean, he's not as good of a scorer as Trae Young, but he can definitely score on his own. And the Hawks, they were a top 5 team in the East last season. I think that's a team that could only get better from here. They're going to be a legit contender to finish in the top 4. But again, I don't know how much the Hawks actually improved this offseason, while the Bulls got a lot better. So we'll see there. And then the last team I did want to mention here, there's other teams to mention in the East, but these 3 teams compared to the Bulls I think are, at least as it stands now, the biggest threats. You got the New York Knicks. The Knicks definitely didn't get worse, but I think the Knicks really, really, really maximized what they were able to do last season. You were expecting a very high level of defense out of the Knicks next season if you expect them to maintain what was the league's best defense in 2020-21. Did they get better? I think a little bit. It's hard to say that adding Kemba Walker compared to what you had previous. I mean, Ntilikina never really got a chance to start last season, but compared to like Elfrid Payton, I think you're getting a huge upgrade, obviously, with Kemba Walker. That was a huge get for them. But outside of that, I don't know how much better you actually really got. And Kemba's got injury issues. So I would say of the 3 teams I just mentioned, for the Bulls to worry about, the Knicks would be the least to worry about. But again, I could see the Knicks still finishing in the 4th spot again. They really didn't get any worse, but if they, run out some of their luck, they were very healthy last season. I think their expected win-loss was way under what their final record was, and they played very good defense. They had a massive improvement in their defensive rating. I think it was somewhere from 113 to 108 as a team. 105, a little less than points per game allowed last season. It's going to be a good team. But let's see here. Expected win-loss, 41 and 31. So I think that was their actual record. But anyway, I think that one's going to be hard to maintain. So again, this is not me saying the Bulls are guaranteed to finish top 4 in the East. It's not guaranteeing that they're going to make it to the second round or the Eastern Conference Finals. This is me saying that I think they're in that mix. I think that there's teams that are going to be competing for a spot in the play-in, and maybe for a spot in the play-in, those 7, 8, 9, 10 seeds, that might still be the Bulls. But I think you're looking at some of those teams, and you just got to say the Bulls are probably better than them at this point. Who knows out of that group of what you got here, like the Wizards, Cavaliers, the Pistons. It's hard to know who from that group's really going to emerge. But I mean, I don't doubt the Raptors at least get a little bit better depending on what they do with Siakam. They did lose Kyle Lowry, but they been able to pull off some pretty crazy stuff. They had an unfortunate run last year. The Celtics, I would actually probably have to include the Celtics in that mix. I don't know. Celtics are a tough one right now for me. It's hard to deny Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, but I think the Celtics you would have to include in that mix too. That's probably one that I left out there. So you've pretty much got a good set of playoff contenders already there in the East. And again, I think that teams like the Pacers, maybe the Hornets. I mean, the Hornets are probably going to get a little bit better at least. And then, especially with a healthy LaMelo. I mean, the Pacers, Hornets, and Raptors are going to be teams to watch. See if I think the Pistons are still maybe a few years away, but that group of three probably is going to be more vying for the play-in spots, whereas you're hoping more for home court in the first round out of that group of 4 or 5 teams between, like I said, I'll probably throw the Celtics in there. The Bulls, Heat, Hawks, Knicks, Celtics. And you probably have an established top 3. I think the biggest threat about top 3 that I mentioned before to fall out would be the Sixers. Injuries have been problems for Simmons and Embiid, to say the least. And I don't think they're going to trade Embiid, but they might trade Simmons, and we'll see what that would get them. I mean, nothing's really been put together there. Anyway, I digress because this was a long video, and I could talk about the Bulls forever just because they made a ton of moves and there's a lot to digest. And I think there's still probably at least 1 or 2 more impact free agent signings that will help to round out the rotation, kind of get the bench better. Their starting unit's mostly set. So, I think that they were one of the more exciting teams to see in terms of roster moves in addition since the trade deadline. They've made a lot of moves to win now. Karnisovas and Mark Eversley are doing a lot of work right now to try to put this team in win now mode. It's mortgaged a lot of the future, but goal right now is to get to the postseason, and they've definitely made the moves to make that happen. So we'll see what I think the biggest question mark for the Bulls is how Billy Donovan's going to make this all work. Lonzo Ball's a really good fit. Caruso, I think, is a good fit. DeMar DeRozan muddies the waters a lot. He's a very good player. He's going to add wins, but you know what you're getting from him. And, I mean, with Vooch and with LaVine, I think the Bulls have a lot to make up for on defense, and it could be clunky at times on offense. Anyway, that's pretty much it. Excited for the NBA season coming up. Got a couple more months, rest of summer league, training camp, preseason to get through, but be here before we know it, around October. So anyway, that's pretty much it. See ya.